Alright guys, happy to come again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. Scrappy continuing the controversy here on Christmas Eve after giving all these takes over the last few days about how Prime Scump compares to many of the newer generation players. Scrappy has now doubled down on the take, talking about where HyDra, Simp and even Shotzzy fit into that type of conversation. Is part of what Scrappy's trying to do here, rile up the green wall going into the new season. That certainly seems to be part of it. What do you guys think on his thoughts in the comments below? Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I greatly appreciate it. First of all, this is the problem with Ranked right now, and just the game in general. Ghosty was like, you know what? Hop on Ranked, play a few games, because some of the pros, they actually want to grind the game. We heard Shotzzy talk about this a couple of days ago now, where he said, lots of these guys, they're not trying to play scrims, they're not really trying to practice. Like, what have they been here for at the end of the day? Like, they play their practice, and then they get off for the night. They're not trying to play eights, they're not trying to really improve, and especially because some of these guys, many of these players, have taken pay cuts this season. I was expecting, then there have been, to some degree, this has been true. More streams, some, players like PaulX maybe turning the stream on, players like Flames, of course, who's not in the league anymore, but he was last year, and Grillers building a good stream presence. It's been good to see. I expected it for more other players, to be fair, and I know that it's a lot, especially around this time of year, so I get it. But I was, I did think this year that with some of the pay cuts coming through, that we'd see more streams and players, maybe we'd see players playing more eights and stuff like that as well, because they would want to improve more so they can win more prize money at the events to compensate for the lost salary, whatever. But the reality is, there are some players trying to grind. Ghosty was deciding, you know what, I'll hold some ranked for a few games, see how that goes. And he says, no, it's been 4 consecutive lobbies full of hackers. 5th one was lit though, might be bad guys. So he says, yeah, the 5th lobby, you know what, no cheaters in that one, no problem at all. But they just banned 20,000 accounts, and as Ghosty says, an old 20k just spent a Big Mac meal on a Game Pass to get another account. So look, I think that's basically exactly the problem, and the player base right now is suffering massively as a result. It's it's bad for everyone really who's involved in the competitive Call of Duty side of things, but maybe it doesn't make that much difference because there are so many people out there. They play Call of Duty, they are aware of Call of Duty, they have no idea the Call of Duty League actually exists. This is incredibly common, and it's frustrating to me as it is to many of you as well, because there are fans that would be interested, I would say, in the COD League if they even knew it existed. So the regular Call of Duty player base doesn't get much exposure to the CDL anyway. I'm not even sure it makes that much difference, which is stupid that it doesn't. But like the success of the Call of Duty League, the amount of people who watch the games, the amount of people who care about the storylines, I don't even know if it makes much difference how many people are actually playing the COD game nowadays, because it doesn't even cross-pollinate much anyway. And I know there's many of you guys out there, like myself really, you don't even play any Call of Duty anymore, but are still fascinated by keeping up with the scene, because people are pretty entertaining in the scene, and we just like to watch competitive action of some sort or another. So I think that's kind of where we are today. It's not good for COD in the longer term, but I don't even know if it affects the COD League that much, the fact that rank play is ruined. It obviously isn't good, and the main thing that it affects to me is the pipeline of talent. That's like the number one thing I'm concerned about really in the COD League right now, is the way that Tier 2 is supported or not supported, depending on your perspective, and the fact that ranked is useless. Loads of talented kids who are good at COD, they'll just go and play another game. They'll just get good at another game. They'll become pro in another game. And, the talent pipeline in COD it is drying up. I think there's absolutely, the evidence all points towards that being the case. But anyway, these are the problems with ranked. Hackers can shut down the servers. Hackers can spam report non-cheaters. They can just, cheat every single game, no problem at all. The perks don't make sense. And then, of course, mandatory cross-play as well, which means you can't even escape it if you want to go play on console. And Activision say, oh, don't worry, guys. We've got some updates to fix the game coming in maybe the next season or so. So, good luck. See you in a month's time. Everyone takes their break for Christmas. And as people have been saying, right, oh, I got banned. I'm a cheater. I got banned. Oh, no. What a shame. Because, look, of course, they talked yesterday. There were 20,000 cheater accounts banned, but it's the same number. It's the 19,000 cheaters number. They said this number at the end of November. So do they think we're all fools or something? But as this guy says, says, I bet all of those 20,000 cheaters are back with a new account already. Game is cooked. And then look at this guy, John, who's obviously got the cheats downloaded, can confirm I was back in 5 minutes. I've got 750, I mean, maybe he's trolling, I don't know. But the point, I guess, stands that cheaters, like, they're not stopping them, you know? Like, they'll ban them, and then they'll get the Game Pass back, and Activision make a bit more money out of it. What a joke, honestly. It is such a joke. And you can see it here with some of the player-based numbers, right? Like, this is overall Call of Duty. I remember the days where you used to log on to Black Ops 2 and see, what, 350, 400,000 players online. Same in Black Ops 1 back in the day, you could see the players online. These are some of the numbers for like average player base in Call of Duty. And sure, it shot up quite nicely in November when the game, of course, came out. Big gains, you know, new Warzone, new Call of Duty. But yeah, over the last 30 days. Now, of course, it's expected to have a degree of a regression. But, you know, to go from 165 average or whatever down to 109, and it's still going down further. Like every time you refresh this number will go down more and more in terms of, you know, the lost player base numbers and, you know, the percentage gain. Everyone's just quitting the game, and can I blame them? Absolutely not. It applies to many, including, of course, Nadeshot, who made it clear the other day that, like, look, he's not going to quit COD precisely, but he's certainly not going to play it every day anymore like he used to for some time. He's been playing this Marvel Rivals game. I honestly thought this was like Overwatch when I first saw it, but I know there's been some optimism about this game, but Nadeshot might have been the happiest man playing it so far. There was also this clip coming out of Nadeshot's stream, because aBeZy was on his stream saying, hey, how about you play some XDefiant instead of COD and maybe try and keep the game alive? Because, of course, XDefiant have confirmed they're shutting it down, but I guess hypothetically, let's say all of a sudden overnight hundreds of thousands of people started playing XDefiant, then probably they'd keep the game around. But yeah, aBeZy gives his thoughts on it anyway, saying they're preying on the game's downfall and all this. Look, at the end of the day, I know there was even talk from Aaron creating the replies here saying, look, that wasn't the reason why the game failed. Like, if you call yourself the COD killer and then you release it at an inopportune time and you don't give any people incentives to play when it does release, then it's not necessarily the community's fault that things have gone badly. I don't know. I think there's fault on either side. It's an interesting case study to see why XDefiant just didn't work, I guess. But maybe at the end of the day, it's just not a product that this audience is really craving anymore. I don't know. Difficult to say, but people's preferences, I guess, do change to some degree over time. I know that you guys have lots of thoughts on why XDefiant didn't work, but look, it's not like Call of Duty works especially well either. Just one thing to mention here before we go on to discuss Scrappy's perspective. Thought this is interesting. Biggest one-game wonder. Now, there's maybe other examples as well. This, of course, is Dylan COD. You guys might remember him from Black Ops 4 when he was towards the end of the game on Reciprocity, an absolute monster. MW19, he was good as well. We know that he went through a lot of personal stuff that we're not really even sure exactly what it all came down to anyway. There's some speculations and rumours out there. Wishing Dylan and his family the best anyway. But he was killing it in Black Ops 4. It looked unbelievable. I was so excited about the future of UK COD at that moment. Obviously, he's Northern Irish player. And then MW19, he was good as well. But there were things happening outside of the game. Stanley is so interesting to me as a player because, like, if you looked at Stanley over the last couple of years and you showed me how good he was at Cold War, like, I don't think I would fully believe you, to be honest. But yeah, Stanley was unreal at Cold War. He debuted, of course, it was Minnesota that year. Then he ended up on Toronto, drama with Scrappy, etc., etc. And it's not like Stanley was bad at the other games that he played over the last few years, but it wasn't as good as he was at Cold War. So I think the other argument might be Sparts, right? Like when he came into that Guerrillas roster in obviously Vanguard with the Vulcan hand and was just cooking for one event and basically one event only. But let's talk about what Scrappy had to say on a couple of But let's talk about what Scrappy had to say, right? Because this guy has been talking a lot over the last few days, as he likes to do. And I think you can tell from his comments here that he's just trying to get a bit of a reaction from the green wall in the chat. But still, I think his discussion is interesting. We know that Scrap's opinion is that over time, COD players just get better. This seems to be his opinion anyway. So Prime Scump, as a player back then, was so good compared to the rest of the league, and Scrap would not disagree with that statement. But I guess his point point is that as time has gone on, the level of talent in the league has gone up to some degree, and therefore Simp in his prime today is better than Scump was in his prime. But of course, many disagree with that statement. So Scrap rephrases it to say, okay, let's take the OpTic bias out of this. Is it Scump or is it Shotzzy in their respective primes? And obviously Scrap's going to say, well, Shotzi's won more world championships than Scump has, which is true, sure. And to be fair, this is an interesting debate. But still, to me, was Shotzzy at a level in his prime where, I mean, like as in right now or whatever, where he is levels above everyone else in the entire kind of competitive field, which Scump was back in the day, not necessarily. So to me, that's the only way to compare, really.
Oh, yo, chat, who's better, Seth or Shotzzy? Two-time COD world champion, one-time Halo, compared to a one-time world champion. Ooh, OpTic fans, who you gonna pick? Still Scump? You think Seth in his prime is better than Ant in his prime? Say on God. Say on God. Oh my God. Oh my. Tej smokes both of them in their prime. Well, Tej is the greatest player of all time in his prime. Forward to Tej. Wow. He's up there. Is your GOAT SMG skill wise then? Ooh, bro. The GOAT SMG, bro. I mean, bro, it's gotta be Chris, bro. It's gotta be Simp. Like, I don't know how you don't see that, bro. It's all good, bro. I can be realistic, bro. Like, I know you guys say I got an ego, but like, bro, I can be realistic. And that's being real. Yeah, Paco's on his way up too. Paco's, oh my God. Paco's insane. Paco will, like, when Paco's done, Paco will be, bro, Paco might be the greatest, bro. That kid is him. Paco's him, bro.
Scrap, of course, also trying to round people up, saying, oh, well, HyDra's getting close to that debate. To me, look, HyDra is phenomenal, and he will go down as one of the greatest SMGs ever. You know, HyDra is potentially even a candidate to go down as, like, the greatest ever. It's not impossible if he, you know, achieves the success that he could, just because Simp was meant to be that guy, and maybe Simp could still be that guy, and maybe in some people's books he is, but I think the reality is that Simp has been around now, I mean, since 2019 he came into the league, and he's had an awful lot of success since then, but it's, you know, in terms of a percentage, it's not been enough to justify moving up the list as quickly, and I think Simp would have to really turn the screw in terms of just championship after championship after championship for him to, you know, to really climb the pedestal and overtake some of the greatest ever. HyDra, because he's only been on good teams really for a couple of years, I think he's at a different point in his career, and of course this year could be a big year as well. I think the point that Scrap makes on the primes though is always interesting. The comparison I always tend to use is something like chess, where like Bobby Fischer was maybe not the best for a particularly long period of time, but when he was the greatest, he was the greatest by such a wide margin that he is always in that conversation. Garry Kasparov was also the best for a very long period of time, like just 30 years or so, but he wasn't the best by the margin that Fischer was. So that's why there's always debate on these topics. You're never going to get to the bottom of it. And of course, like Magnus Carlsen today is the strongest player ever, but you know, there's the other arguments don't always apply in quite the same way. So yeah, it's always a difficult one, but intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. I don't think Scrappy's going to change his mind on stuff like this, but maybe that's perfectly fine if the community can give their perspective in due course. But hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.
My boy Aches is in the chat. He said, I think you should load up XDefiant one last time today. Listen, what they did with XDefiant, they made a great game. I don't think you guys realize how hard it is to make a video game. And I was only part of, you know, about a year and a half into making ours, and it's a really difficult thing to do. So anybody trolling or anybody fucking trying to talk shit to Pat about XDefiant, you guys are absolutely faded off the tar. We won't stand for it. XDefiant was like a really good swing at like an arcade shooter. And if the gaming community wasn't so toxic and so closed-minded, I would say, about how we should handle and treat new games, it's like people were preying on this game's downfall. I think Pat, Pac-Man, all the guys at Ubisoft, I think they did a great job with XDefiant. And I ain't saying that to save face. I ain't saying that for nobody. It is insane to me that people like preying the downfall of games. We might load up XDefiant eventually. It's not going to be today, Pat, but I love you taking a swing for sure.